Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you coming from different parts of our beloved Mother Earth. Dear friends, it's my real pleasure to welcome you to another session of the Institute of Satyasai Education Human Values Online Course 1, Module 3 training program. My name is Esma Bursic and I am the MC for today's session. I hope you're well and you're going to enjoy being with us as much as we enjoy being with you. During the last 4 sessions, we explored the 3 core tenets of the program: unity in head, heart, and hands, unity of faith, and unity in diversity. Today's session is about the 4th core tenet of the program, Sealing on Desires, a very important topic. Why it is so important and what it is about, we will hear from our dear Brigitte Kashtan. After Brigitte's presentation, you will be able to ask questions and then we shall have a short break. The workshop that follows afterwards will give us a chance to reflect on different aspects of the Sealing on Desires program and share our creative ideas. Let me introduce Brigitte Kashtan, please. She's living in Israel near the Lake of Tiberias. Professionally, Brigitte graduated in clinical psychology in Paris, France, also studying philosophy. She's a senior clinical psychologist and psychotherapist specializing in transpersonal psychology. Within the Sri Satya Sai International Organization, Brigitte serves as the National Council President in Israel, as Region 62 Central Coordinator, and then as Zone 16 Biocare Coordinator. She is deeply concerned by the state of Mother Earth and sees Satya Sai's profound teachings as the royal way of inspiring a deep personal transformation, as well as a more loving environmental care. I'm really looking forward to hear and see what dear Brigitte is going to tell us and show us now. Please, Brigitte, take over.
Thank you very much to our dear Esma, and Esma will also guide us in a very inspiring workshop in the second part of this session. And now we'll start with the first part of this session that will talk about the general principles of this wonderful program called Sealing on Desires. We'll talk about what is it, what does it mean, why do we need that program, how can we be helped in our growth. We can start by saying that it is a very simple constatation to say that in the Western world, many of us waste too much, really appalling waste of money, of food, of time, and of energy. And this program has been created for our own growth as spiritual seekers. And we'll see first, as we always do in these sessions, we'll see how it is for us as adults, as grown-ups, as teachers, as educators, and we'll see that how it will be quite easy to convey these principles to the children we are in charge of in some way or the other, after we understand more in depth the value of this Sealing on Desires program. We'll see that it is very easy to understand and also to implement. And we'll see the different steps in understanding the value of this amazing program. So we say, what does it mean? Sealing on Desires, it simply means at a simple level, first of all, to put a limit on our desires, to put like a ceiling, like a roof, right? Ceiling is like a roof on our desires, to limit our desires. It means exercising our self-control over our unending desires. So why do we need this Sealing on Desires program? Let's start with a very nice quote by Mahatma Gandhi that summarizes very well all what we'll say. Why do we need it? Because civilization, in the real sense of the term, consists not in the multiplication but in the deliberate and voluntary reduction of wants, of what we want, of our desires. This is the only means to know true happiness and to become more available for others. So we see already here in that quote many of the parts of this program and why it is so important. We'll talk about the voluntary reduction of our desires, of our wants. We don't talk about the basic needs, or we talk about it as separate from that, as different. And the paradox is already explained here, that to know true happiness, we need to do that, to reduce our desires. And then we become more available for others. We'll develop these ideas. So why the program? To correct the mistaken notion that happiness lies in the fulfillment of desires. And a very famous quote by the founder of this program is, "Less luggage, more comfort makes travel a pleasure." Because luggage are all these desires that we carry on ourselves, are the very heavy luggage. And if we get rid of part of it as much as possible, besides our basic needs, it will be much easier to travel in the travel of life. We know that man is losing real happiness by being attached to mundane things, which cannot give happiness. We know that is in our societies, Western societies, we are actually bombarded by all these advertisements that make us believe, or try to make us believe, that only if we buy this thing we'll be happy, or we'll be happier if we have all these and all these and all that. And we know that it is not true. But that is the role of these advertisements, is to make us believe so. So we have to educate ourselves in knowing what do we really need. Again, another thought is that we think having our desires fulfilled will bring lasting happiness. But the happiness is in fact only temporary. This is a very important distinction. Soon we are feeling dissatisfied and we desire something bigger, better, or different. So here is the distinction between permanent happiness, lasting happiness, and the very impermanent happiness or pleasure or thrill or excitement given by the fact to buy something, for instance, or to eat something. We go one step deeper in the understanding. Satisfied tells us that desires are actually a prison and that man can be freed only by limiting his wants. Again, the wants are not the deeds, right? The needs. It's a distinction. We should have desire only for life's bare necessities, not to burden ourselves by all these desires for things that we do not actually need. And about the prison, we know the example, very famous example in India, that people who want to catch monkeys use a very easy method, actually. They put some sweets or something that the monkeys like into a kind of pot or jar, and the monkeys come, they put their hands into that jar, they can put their hands very easily into it, and then they grasp whatever is inside, peanuts or whatever they like, their sweets, and then they try to put their hands out of the jar, still grabbing the sweets, but then they cannot. And they don't understand that to free themselves, they should just let go of these sweets. And so the catchers, the hunters come and they catch them. And it's a very nice metaphor, very nice example actually for what happens to us. And to explain that desires are a prison. We are prisoners of some of the desires, and man can be freed only by limiting his wants. And we'll see later what it means to limit our wants. We go further in the understanding. Another very nice quote. We know that from the experience of saints and sages, you can see that the joy got from the external world is very small, infinitesimal, when compared with the bliss won through spiritual effort. It is the effort that liberates from worldly attachments and is essential for you. So again, the idea that this program is made for our own growth, that if we learn to limit our desires, our wants, it makes us free, and the effort itself helps us in our growth, and we'll see what we can do with all what we save, time, energy, money, etc. So now we go one step further, actually. And the quote says, happiness begins to dawn when desires are totally eradicated. Cut short your desires day after day. When you reduce your desires, you advance very rapidly toward the state of renunciation, peace, and bliss. So now is the paradox that is introduced, that is one step further, which is that only when we cut our desires, cut short our desires, when they are eradicated, then we become free, as we saw, but then we are happy. We start to be happy, you know, reaching the states of renunciation, peace, and bliss. So it's the paradox that is exactly the opposite of what we are taught by our societies of consummation, that when you buy these, you'll be happier, right? So it's exactly the paradox there. And one step further or deeper could be to say that man, when he's deluded by his unlimited desires, man is forgetting the supreme consciousness. That is why it is important to keep our desires under control, to place a ceiling on them. So the idea of the supreme consciousness as being the goal of our lives as human beings, we know that we have come to this human birth, not to waste time, not to waste energy, not to waste money, etc., but to achieve the supreme consciousness. And we have seen all through this program of such as education in human values, why we are here and how we can take the help of these programs to achieve our goal, our true goal as human beings. So again, the idea here that we should turn our thoughts away from low desires and direct them toward permanent bliss, which comes from the awareness of our immanent deep consciousness. We could say divinity, we can use other terms as we saw it during the program, our spiritual heart, our consciousness, our supreme consciousness. Only then we can achieve permanent bliss and not only impermanent satisfactions that come from the fulfillment of passing desires. We know that everyone yearns for happiness. People yearn for happiness in every act, actually, in every experience. All actions are aimed at deriving happiness. But where do we find that happiness? Do people find that happiness? We can say that from experience, we know that we may be happy for a while, but that permanent happiness is attained only by contemplating on our divine essence, on our consciousness, supreme consciousness. Therefore, that is what can give us supreme consciousness. So after seeing these very philosophical and metaphysical ideas, let's see how we can convey these beautiful ideas in simple and beautiful way, in a very playful way, thanks to our dear Susanne, who created that lovely ET personage that comes from an outer space, and he tells us how we can put a ceiling on our desires and then be happy. As we know, Marty comes from another planet. He lands through falling from a rainbow on planet Earth. And here he tells us everything about ceiling on desires. He says, don't waste natural resources like water and energy or food. Make good use of your time. Fill your days with love. Instead of wasting your money for things you do not need, save that money to use for some worthy cause. Use your skills and knowledge to see good, do good, be good, and don't be in a hurry. Haste makes waste, and waste makes worry. And when you worry, you waste time, thought power, and energy. So again, just put a ceiling on desires and be happy. We'll see now in detail the 4 areas of that program. What is the focus of the Ceiling on Desires program? It's mainly 4 categories: food, money, energy, and time. We'll first say in short what it means, and then we'll see more in detail. So for food, number 1, food, we should control the quantity and the quality of the food that we absorb. We'll see that food is not only material food, but also all what goes through our senses. We should not waste money. Learn how to curb on expenditure and to use whatever we have saved to help the poor and the needy that need that much more than us. About energy, we'll see that there are different kinds of energy. We should verify the correct use of that energy, and between else, curb on excessive talk, which wastes a lot of energy, we'll see. About time, we should make an adequate use of every single minute of the day. And then, as we saw earlier in the program, we should practice the 5 Ds. Here we won't go into detail about the 5 Ds. Esma will in the second part of this session during the workshop, but just talking about discipline, which is a word that sometimes awakes resistance when we hear that name before because of our childhood or whatever. So discipline is not strict rules and punishments, but it is empowerment through values-based conduct. It's a very good definition. Empowerment through values-based conduct. And this we can apply with ourselves, first of all, and with children. And we saw during some of the lessons, so before, like one with Susanne on character, that the beauty of life depends upon our good habits. And then we have a character, and then we have our destiny. So it's very powerful. So here we have little Marty again, telling us more about food. He tells us again, don't waste natural resources like water, energy, or food. Food is a very important topic. We'll see it maybe also later in more detail if we have time. But food is all what we absorb, everything that we consume, what we see, what we hear, everything that we see. But we can start with simple food, what we eat and what we drink. So let's start saying that we should eat only what we need, and to be sure that what we eat is sattvic, which means pure. And then we can give any surplus food to those in need. Another state is very nice. It's to develop that quality, that power, to transform the food we consume into sweet thoughts, words, and deeds of compassion for all. We'll develop later what is saving food. Money. Marty tells us again, instead of wasting your money for things you do not need, save it to use for some worthy cause to help others. We know that we are spending too much money, most of us. Instead of spending for our own pleasure, we should be spending for the relief of the poor and needy. This is the real meaning of ceiling on desires. Not just making donations to have our conscience more, quiet and happy, but to stop wasting, to try to waste less money, and from what we have saved from that spiritual effort, from these to give away to whoever needs. Not just, go on living like we used to live, and then sometimes make some donations to feel better, but to reduce our expenses. It's from these to practice charity by gifting away money, food, clothes, the basic needs, right? Houses, education also, we should say, for children, instead of misusing money. Energy, we see that energy has many different aspects. Here, Marty tells us to use our skills and knowledge to see good, hear good, and be good. Our physical, mental, and spiritual energies should never be wasted. And another quote is very nice: seeing bad things, hearing bad things, speaking evil, thinking even evil thoughts, and doing evil deeds, all these waste our energy. So if we are tired, we should ask ourselves, how did I waste my energy? Another aspect, the positive part of energy, is just to see, another quote, see no evil, see what is good. Hear no evil, hear what is good. Speak no evil, speak what is good. Think no evil, think what is good. Do no evil, do what is good. This is the way to God. So again, simple definitions, simple quotes that can help us on the way to conserving our energy. And if we conserve our energy in all these 5 areas, then we can make our lives more meaningful, and again, to achieve the goals for which we have come to this human birth, not to waste our time, energy, etc. Energy in emotions is a very important topic, right? Because we know how much emotions, negative emotions, such as, for instance, anger, resistance, irritation, frustration, we could add also envy, jealousy, impatience, all these energies that we know are the emotions, they drain energy from us and they cause the energy to be wasted. And again, the importance of talk, negative talk like gossiping, backbiting, criticizing others. The very strong recommendation of this program is to put a ceiling on these and to reflect on how much happier we feel when we stop all these kind of negative habits, right? Time now, again, Marty tells us, make good use of your time, fill your days with love, and don't be in a hurry, which means, the importance again of living in the present, not in the past with regrets, not in the future with fear of or whatever, anxieties or worry. And Satyasai stresses a very basic idea, which is obvious in a way, but maybe we didn't think of it so much before, that time is the one commodity that everyone in the world has at their disposal in an equal amount. Everyone just has 24 hours a day. So if part of it is wasted, it is gone forever, and it can never be retrieved. Another quote saying what we know, that today we waste time on unnecessary and unwanted things and indulging in unnecessary talk and doing meaningless actions. I think we can all identify with that, I guess, in some way or the other. So what should we do with our time, right? We have all that time, 24 hours a day, part for sleep, part for work, etc. But we have usually some free time, and this is where we tend to waste time. And instead, we should think that every second is a fresh chance given to you for training the mind, refining the intellect, purifying the emotions, strengthening the will, and for getting confirmed in the conviction that we are the deathless self, the infinite consciousness. Again, we saw in depth when we talk about the value of truth, what that means, right? So if we go from the theory to the practice in a way, we could think of useful questions that we could ask ourselves to implement the program of Sealing on Desires. First, about food, we could ask, I am eating what I need, or too much, or junk food, and nutritious food, or empty calories. So we should think of the quantity and the quality. I guess we all have the experience at some point or the other of having our eyes bigger than our stomach and eating too much, or eating something that is very tasty and we enjoyed it very much for a few seconds or minutes, But then our body gives us signs that it's not happy at all with what we have eaten. And then we suffer for much longer than a few seconds of the enjoyment. And that is indeed a metaphor for all what we do with desires that are not absolutely necessary or healthy for us. We know that the body is the temple for our consciousness. We have been given that body with the genes that we received, etc., and the health that we were born with. And then it is our duty to keep that body like a temple, the temple for our soul, to take good care of our temples so that we can make it, as we could say, transparent as possible, as energetic as possible, to be pure instruments for the work we have come to do in this life, in this incarnation, right? So everything that we eat that is too much or not right for our body makes us feel weak or, tired or sick even. So it is our big responsibility to take care of our body as the sacred temple for our soul, to be able to be pure instruments of what we have come to do on this earth, in this life. So quantity and quality, and we should ask ourselves if we are wasting food, and just to learn to buy or cook or put on our plates only what we really need. And again, with the money saved to do more useful things. If you go to the field of money, we find that a few questions that can be very helpful when we feel attracted to buy something that we do not really need. We can ask ourselves, for instance, do I really need these? How long I am going to use that? Or do I already have something similar? And we could ask ourselves, what would be maybe a better way to use that money instead of buying what I feel attracted to buy right now? Energy, we saw that it is in many fields. We can ask ourselves, how do I waste energy? And how could I improve on that, use my energy better? And for time also, we could ask ourselves, how did I use time today? Or is it for a good or bad purpose? Did I waste time? And we know that we can always improve on all these fields. Many people are, quite worried about the term renunciation and detachment. And here is a nice quote that can summarize what we mean. People think that renunciation means that one must renounce life. But what one must really give up or renounce is the attachment to the different things that are not healthy for us or too much or not right. So Satyasai says, you do not have to give up properties. You should not sell your house and go to a cave in the Himalayas or anywhere, in the desert or in a monastery, but instead develop proper ties with the divinity, we could say, with the supreme consciousness within ourselves. So it's a word play, not to give it properties, not to go to the forest, not to live the life as we have, but instead to develop proper ties with the divinity or the eternal principle or the divine consciousness in us. Actually, we know examples when Satyasai was not happy with some professor in his university who had decided to quit being a professor to teach, to devote all of his time to spiritual exercise, to sadhana. He was not happy at all, and he told him that if you do that, instead of going on doing what you are supposed to do, which is to teach your students, you will not have liberation for many, many lifetimes. So you should go back to the university in that case and to go on teaching. And this is, in a way, holier, we could say, than to just think of ourselves and our own growth. We should also help others develop, each of us as we can in our fields. And now we go to a very important field, which is the one of protecting our Mother Earth. We know the situation, right, which is very, very bad, the situation of our Mother Earth. And when we think of reducing our desires and our wants, we can think, what can we do to reduce our ecological footprint in relation to food, energy, money, and better protect Mother Earth? So our first duty should be informed, right? We'll see later how important it is to be really informed with what is going on with the resources of our planet Earth. We cannot play as if we don't know what's happening, because the situation is really getting worse. And here we have again a beautiful quote by Mahatma Gandhi that everybody probably knows. Mahatma Gandhi said, "There is enough for everyone's need, but not for everyone's greed." Some people say not even for one person's greed. We know indeed that there are so many people, like 1 billion people, who are hungry on the planet. And on the other hand, other parts of the population of the earth waste so much food and money. And there is really enough in the resources of Mother Earth to be shared in a very good way, but we know that it is not the case. So it is our responsibility, again here, not only to talk about our own growth and spiritual development, but also to care for the others, and the others being human beings, but also animals and plants and trees and Mother Nature and the oceans, etc. Satisai tells us that essentially there is no conflict between man and creation. Just as a child is entitled to enjoy the milk from its mother, and the bee is entitled to enjoy the honey from flowers, there can be no objection to man enjoying the resources of nature. But as a result of uncontrolled desires and reckless exploitation of natural resources, nature is exhibiting frightening disorders. So we know that all the problems that are in nature now, or the climate change, the warming up of the planet, and tsunamis and earthquakes, and all these natural disorders are direct reactions to our behavior. It is like Mother Earth reacting to that lack of balance. And it starts with our thoughts, with our feelings, what we radiate. So we have a big responsibility, each of us, in what we do every day and what we radiate as our thoughts. Here is, again, going from the theoretical idea to practical tips, we could say. We'll see this very nice poster. We'll see that it's made by the ISSE-SE International Organization subcommittee called Serve the Planet, or Protect the Planet, or Save the Planet, by the young adults. We could start with very simply refusing to buy things that we do not need. We didn't talk yet about the clothes, clothing with nice colors, nice dyes, is very, very wasting energy, like lots of water, lots of energy. So first, to refuse. There are now movements on the planet, also here in Western civilizations, like to kind of recycle the clothes, or to buy one from the other, to exchange clothes, that is better than buying, because then if we buy more and more clothing, or items of clothing, it is very great, very high in the waste of water and energy, not mentioning exploitation of people and also children who work in all that industry of clothing. Reuse, of course, we know we could reduce many things instead of buying again and throwing, wasting and throwing and then buying again. We can reuse many things, to learn to recycle and to educate ourselves how to do it. We can, for instance, volunteer for Mother Earth. We can plant trees, like medicinal plants. In some countries, they do it in some places. planting trees is very, very important because we know the problem of deforestation, which is for growing animals for meat. We'll see that later. So we see on that poster, for instance, very simple steps. Do not waste water, very precious resources. Do not waste energy. Do not litter. Recycle waste. Protect the ozone layer, not using sprays that make holes in that ozone layer, and do not waste paper. We know that each time that we use paper, some trees have to be cut for that. So again, here is the Serve the Planet, that young adults-led initiative that was launched in 2013 as a global project of the ISSE-SE. And we can start, for instance, like simple ideas that we can implement ourselves and teach others, including children. And we can say, about reducing plastic waste, saving energy, conserve water, eating to protect the planet, as we say, changing our shopping habits, etc. And not forgetting the energy connected with cleansing the atmosphere with good thoughts, prayer, devotional singing, chanting, and meditation. As we saw, energy and food is not only material energy and food, it is also the atmosphere and the radiations that we radiate. So again, it's okay, we should be concerned with our own progress and our own improvement, but we should try as far as we can to make others happy and to at least desist from causing pain to others, right? We have learned that with the principle of non-violence previously during this course. Another important quote and idea is that compassion toward all creatures is the greatest virtue, and willful injury to any creature is the worst vice. And here we'll talk a bit about animals, okay, and about the vegan and vegetarian food. So for all of us, I guess we are at least not eating meat and not eating fish for spiritual reasons, at least, not to create suffering, out of compassion for our brothers and sisters, the animals. Here are a few more ideas that can help us also explain to others why it is so important to refrain from eating meat, from eating fish. That it is good from our own growth, right? Because if people, let's say not we, if people ingest meat and fish, they also put inside their body and their energy field, the vibrations of suffering and anger from these animals. Of course, also all the pesticides, all the antibiotics that are in these poor animals. So, but besides that, we should know that we should be informed, because there are corporations that have very huge financial interest in making people believe that it is okay to deforest, for instance, in Brazil or wherever in Africa, and to transform all these grounds into places to grow corn or wheat for people. They make us believe that it is for people, but it is not true at all. It is to grow more animals. And we know that in these fields, many of the so-called objective research is not objective at all. And we should know that it is not true, that all the deforestation is to make ground, to grow food for these poor animals like cows and others. And then there are less trees, and then the planet becomes warmer, etc., etc. So we'll see here very important facts by the United Nations Environment Programme, the UNEP, the International Panel of Sustainable Resource Management. That is a quote from 2010. So it's becoming more and more known, but not enough people. So they say from that research that they conducted that eat vegetarian food and reduce dairy intake, or opt for a 100% organic plant-based diet. They say that in that research that the global shift towards a meat-free and dairy-free diet is vital to save the world from hunger, to save the world from hunger, from fuel poverty, and from the worst impacts of climate change, because of what we said, right? That all these industries, these corporations of meat and dairy industries, very powerful corporations in the United States and other places. So they take out, they deforest all these wonderful trees, all these forests, and it has a big impact. So you see, the United Nations recognize that. It's very important to know that, the importance. So if people practice sealing on desires towards vegetarian food, at least, if possible, vegan food, it would help to save millions of animals that are bred in these awful conditions and given, pesticides and antibiotics and hormones, etc. It would reduce rainforest destruction and species extinction. Many species become extinct because of our consummation of their meat. It would save precious water. It would allow to redistribute food to hungry people. It would reduce air, water, and land pollution. And it would, of course, improve our own health, because once upon a time, maybe 60 years ago, it was considered healthy to eat fish, for instance. Now it is really a danger, because fish are raised in big nets, and they are absolutely sprayed with pesticides and with antibiotics. And it is very unhealthy now. So again, it is our duty to be well informed. And here, for instance, there are examples of two important movies that describe these facts very clearly. One of them, a must-see movie, is Eating Our Way to Extinction. It is like a documentary showing the effects of meat eating, dairy eatings, and fish, the way they are grown now. And the other one is Kissing the Ground, which talks about the importance to preserve the nutrients that are in the ground, in the earth itself. There are many other movies, but these are excellent ones. We know, for instance, about Kissing the Ground. It's exactly what our dear Manos has been doing in the farm of Saeprema, to make the soil richer and to keep the nutrients in the ground. Very important. He has very well understood that. And all those who want to learn that can learn from him. So we know that every action impacts the environment. We can't say, oh, just that piece of plastic, that piece of paper. Each one of our actions does impact the environment. We are the stewards of Mother Earth. So it is our duty to protect her and to make this planet habitable for our future generations. We can attain this goal by being conscious of our daily actions, by making behavioral changes for an environmentally friendly lifestyle. Very important to know. One last idea about these actions that impact the environment. We know that we who have so much must do more to help those in need. And a very important quote here, most of all, we must live simply so that others may simply live. Again, here, the compassion and the need to share the resources. Now we'll make the transition to the idea of peace. We know that this quote talks about balance, right? That is one aspect of peace. Human life will find fulfillment only when ecological balance is maintained. Balance in human life and balance in nature, both are equally important. So yes, we can use the resource of Mother Earth, but as we say, not to waste. And we'll see shortly how this is connected with the search for peace. The search for peace in the external material world is the cause for all the unrest in the world. Peace has to be established first within one's self. We saw that idea before. And Eckhart Tolle wrote that you find peace not by rearranging the circumstances of your life, but by realizing who you are at the deepest level. Again, the same deep idea. We saw previously, when we learned about the value of peace, very simply, when we say, I want peace, I is the ego, want is the desire. So if we remove ego and desire, we'll be filled with peace, and then peace is left. Two more beautiful quotes. We are reaching to the end of that presentation with few more beautiful quotes. One by Rumi. The desire to know your own soul will end all other desires. Very beautiful quote. So if the desire to know who we really are, our higher consciousness or deeper consciousness, eternal consciousness, that will end all the other impermanent external desires. And the Buddha said that true and lasting inner peace can never be found in external things. It can be found only within. It can only be found within. And then once we find and nurture it within ourselves, it radiates outward. Coming to the end of this presentation, we can say that in order to experience peace, you have to calm down the mind waves and mental agitations. Then you will be able to see deep within yourself and to taste the serenity and the peacefulness of your true self. And coming to the last slide, we see that beautiful lake, the Mansarovar Lake in the Himalayas, which is considered very sacred. And we know that desires are like waves on a tranquil lake. And if we manage to calm down these waves, these desires, then we can see the bottom of the lake. This lake is considered very pure, very clean. You can see the bottom. And we are responsible for how we manage to calm down all these desires that prevent us from being more and more in touch with our true identity, and to make our duty in this life, in this world, to be again pure instruments for what we have come to do, for our own growth and radiating it outwards. So thank you for your attention. Dear Esma.
Thank you very much, dear Brigitte. This is a wonderful presentation. So many information, useful and ennobling. And thank you for reminding us that it all comes down to ourselves, that we are responsible for what is happening, but also we have power to correct by limiting our desires. We can change our own life to a better one, happy one, and life of our societies and Mother Earth as well. And you really covered all aspects of the Sealing on Desires program. And you gave us so many tools for practicing it in our daily life. So it will enable us to keep transforming ourselves into people always conscious of the need to put our desires under control. And as Mahatma Gandhi says it, and especially to become aware how we can help our planet Earth by our actions in order to know true happiness and become more available to others, we will manage that. Thank you once again. And dear friends, if you have any questions, this is time to ask. Please write them in the chat, and then Brigitte will answer them. Thank you. This was really inspiring, Brigitte. Really moving.
Thank you, dear.
Wonderful.
So here, I think there is one question. Oh, no, it's okay. It's not a question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Max. Maybe until questions come, maybe we could give more practical examples in our lives. So if I may start.
Yes, please.
have many examples every day, actually. You know, it's a permanent fight, you could say, of inner war. Like we know that the sacred war is inside, right, against our enemies of greed, etc. So, for instance, I saw that last week, as I was, you know, thinking of that presentation, I was with my grandchildren, my granddaughters, who are small, 5.5 and 3. And of course, each time they want to buy all these small things. And it's a joy to make them happy by buying whatever they want, because it's really small things that make them so happy usually. But last time, as I was working on that presentation, I said, oh no, I have to make an effort today. So she was kind of hinting, the elder one, the 5.5, that she would like very much this or that. And this time I refrained from buying, which is not my usual attitude, I must confess. And she was quite surprised. And when she went back home, she told her mother, oh yeah, we didn't buy anything in that shop. And she said, because grandma said it's very, very, very expensive. It's not exactly what I said, you know, it's not, but it's just to make the habit not to buy anything they want, to make a ceiling on their desires. So it's very, very common, you know, inner war each time. Until other questions come. Thank you for your nice remarks, all of you. But I can give also the example of food. Well, food, as we say, we eat at least 3 times a day, usually, not talking about the in-betweens. So for me also, I have been a vegetarian for 45 years, thanks to my first teacher, who was very strict with that and who explained to us the importance of not having meat and fish, because, as I said before, then we also put into our system the negative feelings of the animals that have been killed. Then in France, it was then in France, let's say 40 years ago, 45 years, it was still considered okay to have milk products, because in France, then the cows were enjoying nature, and so it was considered okay to you know, to let them eat grass and to enjoy their milk, etc., milk products. But now it's not the case in most places. Like here in Israel, we know that most of the milk come from poor cows that are kept in captivity, we could say, and milk in a very cruel way by machines, not by loving hands. And besides, they are given hormones to produce more milk. And I read awful things yesterday also about the way it's done in other countries, and we can provide the links later when we share the link of that video. Very, very disturbing facts. And for the fish, as I said, that movie gives all the details, eating our way to extinction of now most of the fish that is in the, like salmon, or the ones that are more, they are grown in a kind of nets, and they are sprayed each day with pesticides and antibiotics. So it's not even healthy to eat fish anymore for those who used to think that it was healthy. So about dairy food, to come back, it's very important. And not only that, but, you know, when we feel, as I said, like we are really attracted to some kind of food, we enjoy it for a few seconds or minutes, and then our body gives us signs that it's not happy at all, and maybe our energy is down, etc. I can also give a very personal example. It's not, of course, judgment for people who don't feel the same, but for me, when the COVID started, you know, there were many interpretations of why is that pandemic. One of the explanations that I identified most with was the one saying that it was a divine plan, actually, a very genius idea to stop all the planes and all the traveling for some time, at least at the beginning, the way it was. And that it was because Mother Earth was suffocating. Mother Earth really needed that break for a while. So for me, when I thought of what I could do to help Mother Earth, besides, you know, the daily choices, eating local products, organic food, vegetables that are grown here, that are not imported for the other part of the world, if possible, etc., etc. For me, if I may share a very personal example, my sacrifice to Mother Earth was to stop dyeing my hair. not because I thought it's nice, no, I don't, but because I felt I cannot go on giving that poison to Mother Earth, even if I used to buy that in nature shops or half natural products, etc., and to do it myself. So it was not a waste of energy nor of money, but I felt that even that, you know, it's my personal sacrifice to Mother Earth to stop giving her that poison. So everyone can think, I think, of many examples we could adopt in our daily life. And to each time, of course, we make mistakes, each of us. And yes, somebody's asking if what about water? Of course, yes, water has to be saved. I think we mentioned that. Water is one of the basic resources, and we have many pieces of advice to reduce that. Of course, we should use less water, but again, the main use of water is through meat. I mean, animals who are grown up. We know, you know, there are very precise numbers of how much water is needed to grow 1 kilo of wheat, and how much water is needed to grow 1 kilo of meat, for instance, right? So there are very precise numbers. So again, saving water starts with not eating meat at all. Elena wrote, so sometimes it's difficult to change family traditional habits in celebrations, for instance. What do you recommend to change this type of habits, respecting the family feelings? Oh, well, again, I can give my small example. I was brought up, as you know, in Belgium and France, carnivorous families. I mean, they ate meat as at least once a day. My father, until he died at the age of 87, even twice a day. For him, a meal was not a meal without meat or fish, sometimes both. So the moment I was convinced, again, 45 years ago, by the moral and spiritual importance of not eating any meat or fish, I just told them I stopped. So whenever I would come to visit, and later with my children, I would not allow them to give my children any meat or fish. It was very simple. And of course, they didn't like that. They thought that my children will never grow up. Well, they did. And it's just, you know, being firm with what your belief is. And just to say it before, if you're invited somewhere, just to say, well, you know, I am a vegetarian, so I don't want you to prepare anything, you know, to make the effort to prepare meat or fish that I'm not going to eat. So I just tell you that in advance. Very simple. So we said about water. Yes, we talked about it. Of course, we can reduce the use of water. Thank you for your messages of thanks. So the habits can really be changed, and I think if we explain nicely and gently to people that we do not eat that kind of food, they can respect it, and you know, they can still have it on the table if they really want, if we're invited somewhere. But we should not allow that in our house, for instance, if we don't feel that it's right to. And they should just adapt to it. There is enough to eat. It's not like once meat was a sign of richness, right? To honor guests, you should offer meat, but now there are so many foods and things that are very healthy, and it's very easy to find alternatives. Yes, of course, we can recycle, to recycle at home and at work, cutting down on plastics and reuse paper products. Yes, very good idea. Thank you, Vidata. What can we say about eggs? So yes, that is a problematic issue. We know that in India, usually they do not eat eggs. We know that even Mahatma Gandhi would not allow eggs, but then people explained to him that the eggs, when they are not fertilized, it's not killing life, so it is okay. But today it is different, again, because hens, chickens are grown up in very cruel conditions. So only people would say, like my neighbors, few of my neighbors here grow eggs. So it's very easy to buy organic eggs and free chicken, which is more important, because organic eggs, it only means if it is written on the package that these hens are fed organic food, which is very nice, but they could still be held in very, very cruel conditions. So if to buy eggs at all, it should be, if possible, from chicken that roam outside, that are free bred chicken, if at all. But again, it is better. I just read yesterday, you know, about these topics, and our eggs are not considered healthy. Again, there are many lies that were told us before to enhance the industry and the consumption. And some know that eggs are not healthy at all. Actually, they're full of cholesterol. And there are many vegan alternatives, like in many vegetable and nuts and grains. This is sattvic food, and some yogurt, if possible, from, again, animals that are raised in nature. That should be very important. So I think we are coming now to the end of this hour. And Esma, back to you. Thank you for your meaningful feedback and questions.
Thank you very much, Brigitte, for reminding us that we can contribute in so many ways. Thank you. Now it is a time for a 5 minutes break, after which we shall meet again for the second part of this session. See you in 5 minutes.
Welcome back to all of us. And as I said at the beginning, Esma today is not only our master of ceremony, she will also lead us into a very interesting and inspiring workshop. So Esma Gadzo Bursic, she comes from Sarajevo in Bosnia, but she lives in Pula in Croatia. She has taught high school students in vocational school for over 36 years and is very much enriched by that experience and grateful for it. She is also a dedicated worker in Satyasai education in human values and a very dedicated and active member of our ISSE of South Europe team. So Esma, please go ahead to guide us into this very inspiring workshop that you have prepared and that will help us think more adequately how to implement these ideas of, you know, sealing on desires. Esma, are you here with us? Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for your introduction and your beautiful presentation once again. Okay, let me just share my presentation. Okay, this is the workshop, of course, on sealing on desires. And Brigitte touched every aspect of this program, Sealing on Desires, and I will touch only one aspect, a little bit more, and that is spiritual part of it, and to show, actually the aim is to become aware of why Sealing on Desires is a core tenet of the Satyasai Educare program. I will also talk, how does it help, or point out, how does this program help in our personality growth and in shaping our and children's character? And where do our strength and satisfaction come from? So there are many points, let's start. There are many points that could be discussed when comparing education and educare, but I will mention only one relevant for this topic. Education is focused on skills and getting academic knowledge for students in order to provide for mere living. It doesn't prepare them really for challenges of life, other challenges of life. While educare, as it is focused on the inner world of a student and human values that need to be brought forth, enables students to integrate all parts of their personalities and shape and strengthen their character, therefore giving them tools for a happy and meaningful life. Enable them also to meet the challenges of life successfully. Now let's see, how does this sealing on desires relate to happy and meaningful life? I cannot help but quote my beloved teacher, the founder of this program, Sri Satyasai Baba. So who is poor and who is rich? Who is the poorest person in the world? Satyasai says, the poorest person in the world is the one who has maximum desires. And who is the richest person in the world? The richest person in the world is the one who has no desires, the one who is content. I looked in the dictionary to find the meaning of this word content. And I found this beautiful definition so right. Being content, content, thank you, Raksha, means a state of peaceful happiness. And I found this beautiful picture of Ramana Maharshi, who is obviously aware of his inner world, connected with it. Therefore, he radiates joy and peace and love and compassion, all the values that come from within. So the core question really is, where do happiness, contentment, peace, and self-satisfaction come from? And we will come to that answer after we compare the state of desire and contentment. When we are in a desirous state, we are attached to the object of desire. What does it mean really for us? If we are deeply attached to something, it rules our life, commands us, then I'm not free. Then, if I'm in a desirous state, it means I want something I do not have. That also means I'm not grateful for what I have. Therefore, I'm not content, I'm restless. And all the time, we have a feeling of yearning. That means I'm not here with myself. I'm not in the now, not with myself. So being desirous takes our energy and focus away from the real source of happiness and contentment. Human being, we are all human being, is made of body, mind, and soul. And the most important choice and decision every day, almost every second, is which of the three should be in charge for us to become content. Shall we focus on body and its endless sense needs, mind, its wavering and with its wavering and with its tribulations, or the soul, which is real source of peace, of happiness, of joy, of love, and many other qualities. So I will give you an example of how wishes can affect children from my school. I worked in a vocational school, and very often we had kids who wouldn't come to school and who wouldn't study. And when the school year comes to its end, they would beg me to let them pass without knowing anything. I would tell them, if I fulfill your wish, I feel that I would fail you and myself as a teacher. I would deprive you of using your abilities and realizing your potentials and gaining your self-confidence. I know if I let you pass that you might feel happy for a short while. Sorry, because you will not be afraid of your parents and you don't have to study. You can play on a computer or be on a mobile phone. But let's be honest, would you feel self-respect in that case? Would you feel self-satisfaction? Would it make you stronger as a personality? Would you be more prepared for life challenges? Would I be honest? Would you be honest? And how this honesty would affect both you and me. Then I would tell them, now imagine that you had just passed the exam with your own efforts by self-discipline of reducing time on playing computer games or a mobile phone or any other activity that is not very useful, and by studying. Just imagine that situation. How do you feel? And believe it or not, my students were really honest. They would always say, all of them, without exception, that they would feel much better if they studied themselves and limited their desires to do other things that are not fruitful for them. And I also remember one girl who, she was a daughter of a friend of mine, and she strongly believed that she could never, ever learn any English. And of course, she never put any effort into studying. Her mom also believed she couldn't do it. And I couldn't let her stay in that belief. And she failed and came in 3 months later to pass the exam. She got an A from the written test and C from the oral test for the first time in her life. And I can never forget her wonderful smile and self-satisfaction on her face and newly gained self-confidence. And now I'm going to tell you a story. 4 boys and a magic lamp. One evening, 4 boys were playing in the field. Suddenly, they heard a tiny voice coming from the underground. Dig me out. I will give you anything you want. The boys started digging with bare hands and branches they found there. They then got out the box in which they found a small, sooty lamp. I'm Aladdin's magic lamp, the tiny voice again was heard. Clean me, and I will show you what I can do. They quickly cleaned it, and the magic lamp shone up. Have you not heard of me? Asked the lamp. I can give you anything you ask for. Tell me, each of you, what your wish is. I like playing and I want a ball, net and sports clothes, said the first boy. The other one had a different wish. My teacher gives me homework every day and I want you to help me do my homework. There are so many beggars on the streets. Make enough money for each of them, said the third one. But the fourth boy had a totally different wish. Oh, magic lamp, please vanish before you fulfill any of our wishes. God gave us eyes, ears, nose, tongue, hands, and legs, so that we can work sensibly and diligently. We should use them and totally rely on ourselves only, and then we can provide what we and others need. Whatever I'm going to achieve, I want to achieve by my own effort and strength. Why should we ask for your gifts as beggars when we are already endowed with God's gifts? The magic lamp liked this answer most, so it vanished in a jiffy. Let's analyze this story a little bit, which will bring us to 5 Ds we heard last year from our dear Suzanne Palermo. My beloved teacher Satya Sai Baba says, aim high. What does it mean in everyday life? Aim high really means to renounce our lower nature and aim to our higher self, the source of all the human values. So what values did this fourth boy have to manifest? Or what values was he aware of? First of all, he understands and knows the importance of aiming high, and also knows that his desires will take him away from the source of strength and happiness, he can discriminate. So the first value is discrimination. He knows that if he limits his desire, he will shape his character, strengthen his character, and grow as a person. And he cares for his character. And he's dedicated to it. Therefore, he manifests dedication. In order to limit his desires, we all need strong self-discipline every single day, every second of our life. So he needs to practice it as well, self-discipline. He might not be aware of how difficult it is to practice sealing on desires, and that it is a lifelong process, but he's determined to stick to it in order to aim high and make it his personal habit in everyday life. So he manifests determination. Therefore, his dedication develops into devotion and strong sense of duty. And when you are aware where your happiness comes from, and when you are connected with that source of happiness, your soul, then I will quote once again Rumi, though Brigitte quoted him as well because it's so beautiful. The desire to know your own soul will end all other desires. And now we have come to the part where you take over. Here are the questions for you. We will divide you in 5 groups. Each group will get 1 question. So you can reflect on it and share it. And we will give you 20 minutes for that. After 20 minutes, we will meet again. And then your spokesperson you choose will present it in not more than 2 minutes to the rest of us. Okay, the first question is, what parts of my character will I improve by practicing sealing on desires to grow as a person? Second question is, how can I motivate children and teenagers to practice sealing on desires? Third question is, make a family sealing on desires program for food, or money, time, or energy, and share it with all. Fourth question is, what values do I need to manifest to make practicing sealing on desires a part of my daily life? And fifth, propose a sealing on desires program to help our planet Earth. Now, we will divide you into groups. Thank you. See you in 20 minutes. And now I would like to finish my workshop with, so after all we can conclude the sealing on desires comes down to detachment from our desires and sacrifice. Original meaning of word sacrifice comes from Latin, sacra facere, and it means to do sacred acts. In practice, really, it means helping others. One of beautiful examples of sacrifice is Sadio Mane. He is a footballer from Senegal. He comes from very poor village, very poor country, very poor family, but he played football excellent, became world famous footballer, played for Liverpool before, and our dear Aksha told me that he plays now for Bayern Munich, and he never forgot his country fellow man. He didn't identify like many other so-called celebrities, identify with possession or status. And he said, why would I want 10 Ferraris, 20 diamond watches, or 2 planes? I build school, a stadium, we provide clothes, shoes, food for people who are in extreme poverty. I prefer that my people receive a little of what life has given me. So why would I want any of it if I'm not going to help others? Wonderful example, inspiring. Thank you for your valuable contribution. And now I would ask Brigitte to give her final comments.
Thank you very much, dear Esma. That was indeed a very, very inspiring workshop. And your questions were excellent, the questions that you chose, and they covered all fields of our life, personal, family, society, and the world and planet Earth. And thank you to all for your very good answers and inspiring thoughts about all these topics, very important topics. Thank you again for your positive comments and feedback on the chat. So thank you very much, Esma. And to conclude, just one last quote that says, when you seek joy from something outside you, remember that a far greater joy lies in wait within your own inner consciousness. And maybe one idea that we have not talked about that much, but when we feel like the impulse to buy something, for instance, or to eat something that is not good for us, maybe to stop for a moment and reflect what is the deeper need below that. And maybe we can find that more like healthier kind of food, of spiritual food or nourishment, can give us a better nourishment than what we just buy we just feel like eating or buying. So just reflecting, stopping, like we know with the 3 A's, right? The head, the heart, and the hands, before we buy something or eat something that is not so good for us, to stop in our spiritual heart and to ask, do I really need that? Or what is the basic need I feel right now? Some lack of peace. And what could give me that peace right now, not in the thing that is not healthy for us? And we didn't talk about food like, television or these screens that are maybe the worst addiction many people have right now, the worst habit. So again, to feel what is the deeper need? If the need is to be connected with people, so instead of spending time on social media and see how many likes I got on Facebook or something like that, well, maybe I could just call someone that I know that is lonely and give that love and attention to someone else. There are other ways to connect the way it used to be. And just to end, we can say that the best attitude is gratitude, right? That if instead of creating unlimited desires, we can be thankful and grateful for everything that we already have. And we'll see later, like the song that will close the session is connected with that. So thank you very much again, dear Esma, for this wonderful and so inspiring workshop. And thank you to all for your participation and positive comments and very inspiring ideas shared during the workshop.
Thank you, Brigitte. Wonderful. Thank you. And now I would only like to announce next session, which is continuation of this session, as it talks about self-sacrifice from I to we to one, and it will be on 25th of March. Thank you all. Have a nice weekend full of love and joy and peace.